What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. As always, thank you for tuning in. So much breaking, game-changing news to get into, and so little time. So we're going to go ahead and go through what I believe to be the top stories for today, which is the SCOTUS ruling. Big pieces. There's all kinds of articles out about this SCOTUS ruling. I want to go over why it's so important that it was a 9-0 unanimous decision, and I also want to play you Donald Trump's response to the ruling and a challenge that he gave Joe Biden at the end of that audio piece. It's actually spot on with the challenge that he gave Joe Biden at the end of that audio piece. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to try and keep this show nice and short and sweet. If you want to follow the show, you can find the show on all podcast platforms. You can also find the show on Rumble, where I post each episode. You can also get a hold of me at StevenTaurielloShow@gmail.com. If you have any questions you want me to read out on the show, or if you just want to reach out about anything, just send me an email. Again, that is StevenTaurielloShow@gmail.com, and let's do this.
You're listening to The Steven Tauriello Show, building a platform of liberty for people in search of truth, with a dash of hope and a life worth living. The Steven Tauriello Show. And now, here's Steven.
All right, so let's go ahead and just jump right into this story. I'm sure you've all heard the SCOTUS has ruled today that states do not have the right to remove a presidential candidate off the ballot. No surprise there. I think we all kind of knew that this was insane, and thank God Democrats don't get everything they want. Imagine what this country would look like if Democrats got everything they wanted. This place would be a heap of ashes. I mean, we've been actually talking about this situation, the Clause 3 of the 14th Amendment, a while. I think we did a few episodes about this a couple months back. I knew this was going to be the case. I'm just actually glad that it was a 9-0 ruling, because that really does bring unity. And unity is exactly what we need. A 9-0 ruling pretty much shuts this thing down. It doesn't allow these people to try and re-spark this fire. It shut it down, it shut the door on it, and that's pretty much what a 9-0 ruling does with this. So we are done dealing with this. However, the Democrats are not going to stop. So you can celebrate. I think it's only right that we celebrate, but we cannot celebrate for too long. This is a big win, not just for Donald Trump, but for the country. So go ahead, celebrate, give yourself a pat on the back, but we must stay vigilant and get back into this fight, because these people are not going to stop. They are just going to bring 15 more frivolous lawsuits to try and get Joe Biden across the finish line by using lawfare. So why does the left keep freaking out? Because they're bringing these stupid cases. These cases shouldn't have been brought to begin with. All right, so all day today, you've heard the absolute freakout session from the left, from MSNBC, CNN, Joe and Mika, the whole crew over there, the whole fascist Marxist crew of Democrats, all losing their minds because of this ruling, because it was a 9-0 ruling. But what they don't realize is that these are stupid cases. These cases should never have been brought to begin with. So I don't know why they're freaking out when these decisions are going to come out like this. And, something I've been posting on my social media today is that these people better get used to this, because this is going to be the inevitable outcome to every single one of these cases, because all these cases are going to get turned over on appeals. The sad thing is the damage that it does to the country, right? So it's one thing, when you're coming up to a situation like this, you shouldn't ask yourself, can I get a win in this case? These people need to be asking themselves the question, should I? No, they shouldn't be. They should not be bringing these cases, because it is so damaging to this country, man. So damaging. And so just to get into this right out the gate, this is the latest revelation from the 9-0 ruling from the SCOTUS, which is Maine's Democrat Secretary of State withdraws Trump ballot ban in wake of SCOTUS decision. So this just came out about an hour ago. Maine's Secretary of State Sheena Bellows on Monday withdrew her Trump ballot ban after the Supreme Court ruled Trump could not be kicked off the Colorado ballot. She said, quote, "The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that individual states lack authority to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment with respect to federal offices." Maine Secretary of State Sheena Bellows wrote in a modified ruling obtained by The Hill, quote, "Consistent with my oath and obligation to follow the law and the Constitution and pursuant to the Anderson decision, I hereby withdraw my determination that Mr. Trump's primary petition is invalid." So essentially, she accepted the loss, and she's going to be reinstating Donald Trump on the ballot. It's actually not really a surprise there. You know what? I think you guys remember John Eastman. I think we did a show on him a few months back. John Eastman is an attorney for Donald Trump. He was the mastermind in all the legal challenges, well, most of the legal challenges in the 2020 election. Well, they are persecuting John Eastman just as they are Donald Trump because they want him to suffer. They are trying to kneecap John Eastman and take his bar license in California, or take his law license in California. And they're doing it on the grounds that he introduced these novel legal theories to try and subvert a peaceful transfer of power. So you notice that word novel legal theory? So why can't these radical activist attorneys that brought this Clause 3 14th Amendment case, why can't they be brought up to the ethics committee at the bar? Why can't their law license be under scrutiny? Why is it always one side that has to pay the price for everything? Why is it Donald Trump is the exception to everything? This is the two-tier justice system, the double standard, the hypocrisy, whatever you want to call it. And in reality, it's not a double standard, it's one standard, their standard. It's rules for thee, but not for me. So it's perfectly okay for Democrats to come out with novel legal theory to try and remove Joe Biden's chief political rival off the ballot. And they don't have to, they're not threatened with ethics complaints. They're not threatened with losing their law license. But John Eastman comes up with novel legal theories when it comes to challenging an election. And now he faces his law license being removed. He faces ethics complaints. He has to sit in front of a trial committee to see if he's going to be able to keep his law license. Like, there's only consequences for one side. This is a two-tier justice system. This is the double standard that everybody's talking about, and everybody can see. There is no doubt about it, man. Everybody can see everybody can see the double standard of treatment when it comes to Donald Trump, his voters, anybody that supports Donald Trump, anybody that represents Donald Trump. They are treated much, much differently than anybody that supports Democrats. Period. Hands down. That's it. That's just how it's been. And this is unsustainable. You cannot have a country, you can't have a judicial system, you can't have a voting system, you cannot have a society where only one side is held accountable and the other side gets away with everything. So there are so many good pieces out there about this absolute stain on our country's reputation. And the people that brought these novel ballot removal lawsuits, these people should face criminal charges too, just like they're doing the John Eastman, like I said. And so speaking of a two-tier justice system, this actually just came out too. We're going to get back into the Trump ballot thing. I just wanted to bring this up. I actually put this into my show notes. I thought it was a good, kind of a good segue into the double standard of justice. So you guys remember the Air National Guardsman Jack Teixeira, right? He was the kid, the 26-year-old that leaked classified documents on a gaming platform. I don't know what game he was playing. I don't think he was doing it to leak secrets to our enemies or anything like that. I think he was just trying to show off to his friends while playing Call of Duty or something. Who knows? And he got caught. Well, he pled guilty today. So Jack Teixeira pleads guilty to leaking classified documents that revealed the U.S. and the U.K. Special Forces were on the ground in Ukraine, and he agrees to accept a 16-year sentence. So, but here it is, right here. You ready for this? The U.S. National Guardsman Jack Teixeira was officially charged in April in 23 with leaking secret Pentagon documents. Teixeira was charged with 6 counts of willful retention and transmission of classified documents relating to national defense. Those words sound familiar, don't they? Willful retention and transmission of classified documents. Now, where have we seen those words before? Oh, yeah, that's right. The Robert Hur report, the special counsel that was investigating Joe Biden, that concluded that Joe Biden, and I quote, willfully retained classified documents he was not supposed to have. Not only did he retain them, but he shared them with his ghostwriter. And this is the 2 tiers of justice that I'm talking about, the double standard. So this guy, willful retention and transmission of classified documents, gets 16 years, and Joe Biden doesn't even get charged. Joe Biden is not getting charged, not because he didn't do it. And in fact, it's exactly what that says in the report. It says Joe Biden did do it. He willfully retained the classified documents. But he's not being charged because he's too old and suffers from memory loss. This is what everybody is seeing. Everybody notices the double standard, the 2-tier justice system. Everybody sees it. And this is the perfect example of that. This kid actually reminds me a lot of what they're doing to Julian Assange. You can claim that this kid is actually quite the hero by informing his fellow Americans that the military-industrial complex that they fund is lying to them. All right? So classified documents detailing the Ukraine war, Middle East, China, Africa, and Israel ended up on a gaming platform. Senior intelligence officials at the time called the leak a, quote, nightmare for the Five Eyes, in a reference to the United States, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, the so-called Five Eyes nations that broadly share intelligence. What really upset the Biden regime and the military-industrial complex was that Teixeira leaked documents that exposed Biden's lies about Ukraine. Yeah, you guys remember that. In the very beginning, they were telling the American people, no, we don't have soldiers over there in Ukraine. We're not sending special forces over to Ukraine. No. We would never do anything like that. And then these documents get leaked by this kid, and it pretty much just blows the whole lid off the entire lie. And we find out that we did have special forces over there in Ukraine, and so did Britain. So did the UK. And so it's like both these countries, the UK and the US, lied to their citizens about having troops over there in Ukraine. Why would they lie about something like that? Probably because the people, the citizens, wouldn't be too happy about us getting wrapped up into another war when we have all these problems back at home, funding another conflict that was created by the military-industrial complex to launder money between different countries, making it the biggest transfer of wealth in U.S. history other than the COVID pandemic. But people would not be okay with it. And so what did they do? They just lied. And this kid actually exposed their lies. So another leak revealed Ukraine was losing the war. You guys remember that? There was all this propaganda. This contradicted the nonstop propaganda by the mainstream media and the Biden regime. The documents contained information on Ukraine losses in the war and an alleged upcoming assault by Ukraine and its allies into eastern Ukraine. Teixeira was taken into custody by federal agents in Massachusetts in April of last year. Jack Teixeira, the young Massachusetts Air National Guardsman accused of leaking trove of classified military documents and posting them online, has reached an agreement with federal prosecutors to plead guilty, according to new court filing. So, he's going to be going away for a while. But again, I mean, the exact terms that were used for this kid, the Robert Hur report found Joe Biden also committed willful retention of classified documents, sharing those classified documents with a ghostwriter, and he's not being charged with this guy. This guy's going away for 16 years. So just pointing out the double standard, that's all. The double standard we all see. So to get back into the Trump ballot removal, I got an article here from Colin Linebarger from the Gateway Pundit. President Trump issues challenge to Joe Biden during speech following his massive victory at the U.S. Supreme Court. And like I said, I agree that this is a win for Donald Trump, but most of all, I think this is a win for the United States. There is no doubt about it that if something like this were to continue, if Democrats would have gotten their way with this would have been a disaster for our elections. This would have been Republic ending decision here. If Donald Trump would have lost this and a blue state, was able to remove their political opposition off the federal ballot. And so what you would have is tit for tat. Texas, Florida would be removing Joe Biden off the ballot. This is what you would have. It would snowball into this disaster, and then Democrats would be solely responsible for the destruction of our voting process, which they already are, in my opinion. But again, they accuse their opponents of being these threats to democracy. Well, when we're not even a democracy, but we'll just play along for a second. They accuse their opponents of being threats to democracy. But yet it's these people that continue to swing the sledgehammer at the pillars, the foundational pillars of our democracy. And then they sit and point the finger at the other side, calling and accusing them threats. It's like, wait a minute. You're bringing all these frivolous lawsuits. You're causing all this chaos in the court system. You created all the chaos in our voting system. You're the one trying to remove Joe Biden's political opponent from the ballot. You're the one that are, it's like it's always them. They are always guilty. They are always caught doing what they accuse others of doing. So everything they accuse their opponents of doing, they themselves have done, are currently doing, or plan on doing in the future. I've been saying this for months, and this is the way of the Marxists. This is what happens in totalitarian regimes, man. Exactly this. Dictators and the Bolsheviks, they all used to do the same stuff. Accuse their opponents of what they were doing so that it distracts people. It creates chaos because those who create the chaos control the situation. Anyways, get back into this article. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a unanimous ruling that President Trump will appear on the Colorado primary ballot and presumably the general election ballot once he wraps up the GOP primary, which I think it's safe to say Donald Trump is going to be the Republican candidate. I don't even know why Nikki Haley is in this thing, but I do have a interesting theory that I wanted to share with you about Nikki Haley and what she could possibly be doing. That nobody has really said anything about. And it's actually interesting. I just thought about it right before we came onto the show. Very interesting. I'll share that with you in just a second. So, quote, because the Constitution makes Congress rather than the states responsible for enforcing Section 3 against all federal office holders and candidates, we reverse the ruling. This overturns a decision by the radical left Colorado Supreme Court that would have removed Trump from the ballot in the Centennial State. And which was not just Colorado, but it was Colorado's lawsuit. But you also had Maine, you had Illinois, you had all these blue states removing Donald Trump from the ballot because Colorado set the precedent. This is what Democrats do. They set bad precedent. They cross the Rubicon, man, and they cross the Rubicon all the time. Like, I mean, we've crossed so many damn Rubicons here in the last 8 years. I mean, we're past the Rubicon now. The Rubicon is like in the distant on the horizon behind us. We are so far past the Rubicon, it's not even funny. But again, all because of Democrats. So thank the Democrats for all this insanity. They could have just accepted Donald Trump won in 2016 and moved on. We wouldn't even be in this predicament. This country would not be this divided. There would not be all this chaos if not for the Democrats not accepting the 2016 election. Period. This is when, in the Russia collusion hoax, this is when it all started. So just after 12:30 Eastern Time, Trump delivered an important message to White House resident Joe Biden after making a few remarks thanking the court for their decision. The 45th president went on to correctly point out that Biden is responsible for his legal challenges, noting he is using judges and prosecutors to influence the presidential election, something I've been saying and we've been saying all along. This is their tactic, their strategy to get Joe Biden across the finish line. And here is a post from Charlie Kirk on X of Donald Trump giving Joe Biden a challenge. Here, check this out.
Letitia James and Fani and deranged Jack Smith, what they should be doing is fighting violent crime. And that would lead me to the end. I will say that President Biden, number one, stop weaponization. Fight your fight yourself. Don't use prosecutors and judges to go after your opponent, to try and damage your opponent so you can win an election. Our country is much bigger than that. The other thing I say to President Biden, close the borders now.
Yeah. Folks, what's so wrong about what he said there? You know what I mean? It's like they make Donald Trump out to be like this, tin pot dictator, worse than Hitler. And because of all this rhetoric, calling Donald Trump worse than Hitler, calling Donald Trump a dictator, all this fear-mongering, because of all the fear-mongering is why we're watching all this insanity happen. Because if you think about it, what would you be willing to do in order to stop Hitler? That's exactly what these people think. I don't know if they truly believe it, but it's certainly their motive behind a lot of this stuff. That is the excuse that they use. Oh, we must do this in order to stop Donald Trump. If Donald Trump gets in, he's going to be a dictator. If Donald Trump gets in, he's going to be the next coming Hitler or Pol Pot. It's like, so here it is, the Democrats and their media apparatus have been fear-mongering the people, have been fear-mongering their base and their voters for 8 years, for so long that they're using the rhetoric to justify all this insanity happening. I mean, because like I said, what wouldn't you be willing to do to stop Hitler? Well, these people think Donald Trump is Hitler. And so to them, it's the ends justify the means. Everything's game. And that is why you're seeing so much disparity from the Democrats. And that's really what it is. All this stuff that they're doing makes Democrats look so desperate, man. And people are starting to notice. It is pure disparity. I really pray for the day that Democrats start running on their policies and their ideas and their philosophy. Because what are they even running on? What is their campaign speech to their voters? Hey, vote for us so that we can initiate universal basic income. They're not even saying any of that stuff anymore. These people went from nuts to psychotic. I mean, their ideas already sucked. So not only is it a party of sucky ideas, but their ideas suck so bad, nobody wants to vote for them, and so they know they're going to lose, and the only way they can win is by removing their political rival. It's like, what? I mean, it is so insane what we're watching, man. So insane. And so President Trump's right, man. Joe Biden needs to fight his own fight. Stop using all these prosecutors, these DAs. Stop with the games, man. Joe Biden is so... The people behind this this election interference strategy, they are doing so much damage to this country. The people that were behind the Russia collusion hoax have done so much damage to our intel agencies and our justice system. I mean, it's just so bad for our country, man. So bad. And they don't even see it. That, to me, is the most terrifying part. Is they can't even see all the damage that they're causing, this wake of damage that they're leaving behind them. And they have to know what they're doing. And just like I said before, Donald Trump is the exception to everything. Anything is game. Anything is on the table. It's like the ends justify the means. And Governor Hochul, I think, said the perfect example of this, where she came out after Donald Trump was ordered to pay almost $500 million with no crime committed, no victims, no fraud. But the attorney general and a radical judge just ruled that he has to pay almost $500 million and can't do business for 2 years in New York, fine his sons $4 billion each, and they can't do business in New York. Like, nobody was defrauded. There was no crime. This was a radical Democrat judge and a radical Democrat DA that managed to do this to Donald Trump. And so it's these people's insanity that are causing all this damage. Governor Hochul came out and she said, oh no, this is just a one-off. It's like, wait a minute, what? Did you just say what I thought you said? So Donald Trump is the exception. So you're only doing this to hurt Donald Trump? You're only doing this because of Donald Trump? That is not the way our system is supposed to work. All right? You don't come out and try and try and save face by saying, oh, no, this is a one-off. Donald Trump, once we do this to him, then it's never going to happen again. No. I don't think so. People ain't buying it. And so what's going to happen is you're going to have entrepreneurs, and you already see it already. You see these billionaires moving out of New York, bringing their businesses with them. Nobody's going to want to do business in New York where if a attorney general and a judge don't like you, then they can just formulate a plot against you and strip you of your businesses and fine you $500 million. It's like, okay, yeah. So therefore, New York City is going to die. And if it wasn't bad enough already, it's just going to get worse now. It's just going to get worse. And so, like I said, you need to get ready because you're going to see a lot of disparity from these people. The more these cases that end up getting rolled up into the Supreme Court, because I said this months ago, and not really to toot my own horn or, not to brag or anything, but I said that most of these cases are going to end up in the Supreme Court. And probably one of the greatest achievements Donald Trump ever did was appointing a conservative majority on the Supreme Court. And just as fate would have it, the Supreme Court is going to be the exact reason why Donald Trump wins the election. So it is, and not because they're doing it because they want him to win. It's because all they're doing is following the Constitution. This is what the left doesn't understand. Like, they're completely blinded. I don't know if they actually believe their lies. And if they do actually believe their lies, are they actually lying? I don't know. That's, kind of a philosophical question that we can discuss later. But it's because of their disparity that we're even in this situation. And so I just want to prepare you guys. It's going to get rough, right? The Supreme Court is going to be making decisions like this in the future. And in fact, that's exactly what I've been saying on my social media. I've been posting about this for the last 2 hours, is that the people that are upset about this 9-0 ruling need to get used to it, because this is going to be the inevitable outcome of every single one of these cases that are being brought, because they are bogus crap cases. This is not real justice. And they know this isn't justice. They know that what they're doing is not justice. And this is why I ask, do they actually believe their lies? I think most of them probably do think that this is actual justice and that Donald Trump is a criminal and he must face justice. But I think the smarter ones, the ones behind this entire strategy to interfere in our election, they know these are crap cases. Jack Smith knows that what he's doing is a crap case. They're all crap cases that are going to get turned over on appeal in the Supreme Court. And is every single one of them going to be a 9-0 ruling? I don't think so. I think you're going to have political splits. You're going to have the 3 liberal judges voting against the conservative judges. That's just what's going to happen. And, I know a lot of you are thinking in the back of your mind, like, man, I really hope that we keep all the conservatives on our side. I totally understand where you're coming from. But this 9-0 ruling has to give you a little bit of faith. Because I think that they made this ruling not only because it was the right decision, because obviously they just read the Constitution, but I think they made this ruling because it would kind of bring unity to this country, which these people shouldn't be bringing these cases because they're so damaging to the country. But they are completely ignoring that fact, and they're bringing them anyways, knowing that they're damaging to the country. But again, their disparity is prioritizing their rationality, So it's like their hatred for Donald Trump is blinding them from what they know to be true, which is that bringing frivolous lawsuits like this, trying to weaponize the justice system against Joe Biden's political opponent that got 130 million votes, okay? So it's not like a small fringe group of people that are supporting Donald Trump. You're talking about a massive portion of people. Broke records not once but twice when it comes to voting. I mean, unless you're one of those people that actually believe Joe Biden got 81 million votes, I don't happen to believe that. So I'm a firm believer that Donald Trump broke 2 records. He got a record amount of votes his first election and a record amount of votes his second one. I mean, 130 million times people voted for Donald Trump. So you're not talking about some small fringe group of people. Half of the damn country thinks what is being done to Donald Trump is wrong. I mean, we see this poll after poll, and now you're starting to see polls, and I was just reading it a little bit ago, that Donald Trump is actually starting to peel off some Joe Biden voters. Because I think people are starting to see what we've been seeing for the last 6 years, 7 years. That's all it is. The truth shall set you free. Once you show these people the truth, then they will come to your side. We don't have to convince anybody of a lie. We don't have to censor the other side. And just like the great Dennis Prager said, if you ever want to know which side is lying, just figure out which side is trying to censor people. We don't have to do that on our side. All we're trying to do is inform the citizens. We're trying to show people the truth. And once they see it, then they come into our tent. This is something that happens to all Democrats, myself included. When you grow older and you grow wiser to the Democrats', schemy plans, when you go to open a business or you have a family and you start to see all these bad ideas coming from the Democrat Party, you eventually see the truth and you leave the Democrat Party. This is why they want younger and younger voters, which is something I wanted to talk about on the next segment, about how Democrats are using the illegal immigrants to essentially redraw district lines in states to add more seats to the House of Representatives. So this is their plan starting to unfold right in front of our eyes. Democrats are using the crisis at the southern border to gain more votes. Maybe not more votes, but they're doing it to gain more seats to retain power. Everything that is happening right now, everything the Democrats do is to keep and retain power. That is it. That is their number one priority. The constituents come last. The people come last. The country comes last. Their number one goal is to keep and retain power. And they're using the illegal immigrants coming in to redraw district lines because the census will not allow us to count illegal immigrants on the census. So we have no idea who's in these states, but we do know there's more people. And if there's more people, then that means more representatives. And so this is their plan starting to unfold. So now you're starting to see the plan of the Democrats and Joe Biden, why they want open borders and why they allowed tens of millions of people to flood into this country. It is to retain power. Just like we've been saying this forever. Forever. This has always been the motive behind opening our southern border. But again, only until these people see it will they start to believe. I think people are starting to see now that Democrats are all about keeping and retaining power. Are Republicans much better? No. And I think a majority of Trump voters that you ask, a majority of them are all on the same page when it comes to rhinos in the Republican Party. They can't stand them. They cannot stand them. The Nikki Haley's, the Chris Christie's of the Republicans. People just want to leave this country for their children better or the same as they got it. That is the mission, I think, of conservatives, to conserve the foundational principles of this country. God, freedom, religion, liberty, property, free speech, Second Amendment. All these things Republicans, more notably conservatives, are trying to conserve. And the other side is trying to destroy, is trying to change this country. You have one side trying to conserve, the other side is trying to fundamentally change this country. This is why you have this insane game of tug of war, where you have these two sides just tugging away on this rope. And this is why it feels like the country is just violently shifting side to side. But for the longest time, this country's been shifting to the left for a long time because Democrats have been pulling on this rope and gaining inch by inch by inch. Changing this country, changing the way we do things here. in changing the language, gaining power. This is what they do, man. And so I think, just to conclude the show, I think that you're going to see a lot more of these rulings from the SCOTUS. I think the Supreme Court is going to be the savior of our country, which I think is exactly what they were designed to do. And I, not to claim I can read minds or I can predict the future or anything, but I think these Supreme Court judges are also starting to see what we see. And they're starting to see how important their job is right now, and they're starting to see what exactly is on the line and how insane Democrats have become for Donald Trump. And just so long as they see it, then we know we're in good hands. And all they have to do, they don't have to lie, they don't have to bend the truth, they don't have to use lawfare, they don't have to do anything, they don't have to manipulate the system. All they have to do is follow the truth and follow the Constitution. And both of those things are in our favor. And more notably, Donald Trump's favor. Well, like I said in the beginning, this decision by the Supreme Court, this 9-0 ruling, is not just a win for Donald Trump, but a win for the entire country. So, give yourself a pat on the back. Go ahead and celebrate for 15 minutes, and then it's time we get back into this fight. Because these people will not stop. They will never stop until essentially they realize that their efforts are falling on deaf ears. The people no longer want to accept what the Democrats are giving them. And this party will shrink and shrink and shrink. This is another reason why they're trying to flood this country with tens of millions of new voters. There's always a method to their madness. There's always a strategy with these people. It's unfortunate that it's the American people that are being replaced by new voters. Because ultimately, in the end, it's not us that suffers, but our future, our children, our grandchildren. And so, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you're going to be hearing a lot about the Donald Trump ruling, about the 14th Amendment ruling from the Supreme Court, 9-0. You're probably going to be hearing about it all day. So many good pieces out there written about this ruling and why it was so important and why it was such a big win for the country. So I'm sure you're going to be hearing a lot about this today. And I wanted to leave off the show with my theory about Nikki Haley. There was actually the reason why I thought about it was that there was a tweet or a post from Stephen Miller, and he posted this article. He retweeted Mark Elias, and he said, "Imagine bragging so openly that the system is rigged and that the constitutional right to an impartial jury is being so viciously and willfully violated." And he retweeted a post from Mark Elias that said, "In a city of 700,000, Donald Trump got 676 votes in the GOP primary. What a tough jury pool." Yeah. So, and the article he's referring to is that Nikki Haley won the DC primary over the weekend. It would be her first victory in the GOP nominating race. So go figure. Nikki Haley absolutely dominated Washington, D.C. with 1,274 votes, got 62% of the votes to Donald Trump's 33. She got 19 delegates, all 19. And Donald Trump got 0. That should throw up red flags for everybody about Nikki Haley. And not only that, but Stephen Miller pointing out Mark Elias. And Mark Elias, we all know, is the lawyer that went around the entire country changing election laws and forcing lawsuits to, to decrease signature verification on ballots, to add drop boxes all over the country. Essentially, Mark Elias is a one-man election swaying machine. That is what he does. He's a evil genius lawyer, and he goes around and he files lawsuits. We don't have a Mark Elias. But for this guy to come out and brag about Donald Trump only getting 676 votes in Washington, D.C., a city of 700,000, and then to make the comment, what a tough jury pool, is just, admitting in public in everybody's face that they know that this system is rigged against Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. And this is why they brought these cases in Washington, D.C. And they know Donald Trump is not going to get a fair jury in Washington, D.C. So therefore, that these people know that they are weaponizing the justice system in order to get a desired outcome, to get Joe Biden across the finish line. They're using the justice system as a political weapon to kneecap Donald Trump during his campaign, to cost him the election. And I don't know about you, but I think stuff like this is so disgusting that these people can just openly admit that Washington, D.C. hates Donald Trump, and so therefore that's the exact city we're going to charge Donald Trump in a jury trial. That's exactly where we're going to give Donald Trump a trial. And that jury will be filled not with a jury of his peers, but of a jury of Nikki Haley's peers. And that is Nikki Haley. Wait till Joe Biden does the primary. What do you think, if Nikki Haley got 1,200 votes, how many votes do you think Democrats get in Washington, D.C.? 98% of D.C. sways Democrat. There is no way Donald Trump is going to get a fair trial in Washington, D.C. And the most egregious thing to me is that these people know it, and they're going to do it anyways. That, to me, folks, is disgusting. That is a weaponized justice system, all to retain power. That's it. They're using the justice system as a weapon to keep and retain power, to get Joe Biden across the finish line, and to persecute Joe Biden's chief political rival. I don't know about you, but that is so un-American, and it's not a country that I want to live in. We are closely resembling something out of the Soviet Union more than we are the United States. If this type of stuff was happening in a third world country, we would be scolding that country right now. We'd be threatening tariffs against that third world country if stuff like this was happening during their elections. But this is the country Democrats want for you now. So just like I said earlier, could you imagine if Democrats got everything they wanted? This country would be a heap of ashes. And Democrats would be perfectly fine. But the rest of us, not so much. So to give my listeners a little bit of advice, do not get in trouble in Washington, D.C. To all the Trump voters out there, do not get in trouble in Washington, D.C. If they find out you voted for Trump, or if they find out you're a Republican, you are screwed. What we're dealing with right now is what is called zip code justice. And I have to give credit where credit was due. I have to give credit where credit is due, because I did not come up with that ingenious term. That was actually somebody else that I seen on Twitter. This is zip code justice in the United States. And it's just unfortunate Democrats are willing to destroy this country just to prevent Donald Trump from helping this country and its people, giving the American people peace and prosperity like he did his first term. It's sad that the Democrats want the American people to suffer for another 4 years with this disastrous human pandemic of a president they call Joe Biden. But they're willing to do that all in the name of keeping and retaining power. There is nothing they won't do. There is nobody they won't sacrifice in order to retain power. And it's just sad that Mark Elias admits to it right in public for everybody to see. I think that pretty much answers my question, is do they know they're lying? I think they do. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I'm going to keep this episode short. I tried keeping it within 30 minutes, but it looks like I'm going to fail that quest, unfortunately. There's a lot more other stuff I wanted to get into. But I'm just going to have to go ahead and save that for the next segment. I would really appreciate it if you guys shared the show with your friends and family. It is the best thing you can do for the show. Spread the word, fight the algorithm, because the algorithm is definitely not working in our favor. Conservative podcasters and content creators, we do not get tossed around the algorithm. In fact, it's actually probably quite opposite. We actually probably get suppressed. So I would really appreciate it, and it would really help the show if you shared and follow the show, and also leave a review. Leave a 5-star review on podcast or whatever platform you're listening to. Leave some constructive criticism, whatever it is. Just leave a review. Let me know what you think about the show. And also follow the show on Rumble. I like promoting Rumble because their values align with us. They are a conservative, free speech platform, and I would much rather promote them than YouTube. Though you can find my shows on YouTube as well, I just don't like promoting YouTube where, they're constantly, there's so much censorship involved. YouTube is not a free speech platform, and I just feel like they just want people to be good little robots and watch and listen to whatever their algorithm tells them to watch and listen to. I feel like we're all being controlled by algorithms. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is right now. And this is why I think alternative media has actually saved this country. I think alternative media and ultimately social media, it is the American people. Social media is kind of a gray area. It is most certainly a double-edged sword. I just don't think we've seen the full effects for us to make a determination whether social media was ultimately bad or ultimately good for this country. A lot of people could say, and I certainly have said in the past, and probably would consider it still, social media being very, very bad for our society, very bad for our country. But on the other hand, without social media, we would not be in the situation we're in now, where you have alternative media outlets speaking the truth. You would have the military-industrial complex and the deep state Washington swamp continuing to run things under the table, behind curtains, while keeping the American people blinded. And not just this country, but other countries too. I think this is why a lot of countries are banning social media, is because the citizenry is actually informed to what their leaders are doing. And that is the last thing they want. So I guess you could say, I don't know if social media has turned out to be a good thing or a bad thing for our society yet. I guess time will tell. But just know that without it, we wouldn't be here in the situation we're in. I guess you can also argue we wouldn't even be in this bad predicament if it wasn't for social media. As far as, the brainwashing, the propaganda. But on the other hand, there's so many pros and cons to social media. It's gotten way more people involved in politics, which is always a good thing. Having an informed citizenry is vital to a healthy nation, is vital for the citizenry to have proper oversight of their government. And so without social media, we wouldn't be doing this right now. You wouldn't be listening to me. I wouldn't be recording from a microphone and a laptop in my phone and telling you the news of the day and telling you what I think is going on out there in our society and in our country with our politics. Without social media, we wouldn't have that. And so I guess it's a good thing. I don't know. Only time will tell. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tune into the next segment. We got a lot more to talk about. I think I want to discuss what Democrats have in store for January 6th in the 2024 election and how they're going to be using the same thing. They're going to be using the same strategy they're trying to persecute Donald Trump for using. And it's actually quite shocking to some, but not really to me. But I will tell you, it does have something to do with challenging the election come January 6th and certifying Donald Trump's win of the 2024 election. Yeah. So I have a couple articles that I dug up. I have some pretty interesting connections that are starting to come to fruition here. They're, like I said, their plan is starting to unfold right in front of our eyes, and I think it's important that we stay ahead of their plan and keep you informed and engaged on the Democrats' plan in order to interfere in the 2024 election to get their preferred candidate across the finish line. So that's what we're going to be talking about on next segment. So again, as always, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you tune into that. Follow the show, share the show with your friends and family, and I will talk to you guys soon. I want you guys to have a good day. Have a great week. God bless you. And God bless America. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.